Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Icon here. Thank you so much for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. In today's video, we are going to take a final look at the bracket as we enter Championship Sunday. So, the third day of our very first online tournament, CDL Dallas, which will be the Dallas Homestead. Unfortunately, that's not happening, but we should be thankful that we're still getting competitive Call of Duty. We still have matches to watch and all of that stuff because days are a little bit boring, right? Other than Valorant coming out and Warzone and some video game stuff, we don't have baseball, we don't have basketball, playoffs will be starting, we didn't have March Madness, all that stuff. So let's be thankful for what we have. But with that being said, let's go ahead. The very first thing I want to do is I want to go back through and I want to review everything that happened on day 2 because there was a lot, right? So Friday, which was day 1, is really just setting up who's going to end up winning those first 4 matchups. Saturday sets us up for finals. So the winner's bracket of each group plays happens, then the loser's bracket runs of each group happens on Saturday, which sets us up for the semis. So as we go back through and review this, first thing that we'll do is we'll just start off right in order. So it started with Chicago and Paris. That was the very first matchup. So that was technically the winner's final of Group B up here in the top right-hand corner. Chicago ended up winning that. So I predicted that one correctly. Chicago went down to the finals or the semifinals, the bracket stage. And then Paris went on to the loser's final. After that, we had the next matchup was Toronto and Dallas. So we went from winners of Group B to winners of Group A. Dallas ended up winning that one. Also, they won it 3-2, so they moved on to the semis. And then Ultra went on to the finals of Group Stage A. So after just the first couple matchups of Saturday, we had our winners bracket teams into the finals, and that was the rest that we would see from them, right? We won't see from Dallas. We wouldn't see from Chicago until Championship Sunday, which as you're watching it is today. And then after that matchup, we had Seattle and Minnesota. So we had the losers bracket of Group B, and then Minnesota ended up winning that one, so I also guessed that one correctly. It was closer than I thought it would be. This was super close. I didn't expect it to be 3-2 finish whatsoever, but Minnesota just clutches up, right? Even though it's not in person, it's not at the LAN event, anything like that, Minnesota just does what they do. So Minnesota ended up winning that, which ended up eliminating Seattle. And then after that, we had Florida and LAG. And of all the bracket, so yesterday's bracket breakdown, today's bracket breakdown, this is the only thing that I got wrong. After Florida lost to Toronto on day 1, I just didn't see it from them. I didn't see the aggression. I didn't see a type of team that could go out and could end up making it as far as they did. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But they beat LAG 3-1. So that's the first thing I can do is I can go in and I can change this. So let's go ahead. Let's put Florida over LAG here. Let's just put them back on the side. So that set up a rematch with Ultra, which we'll talk about. That was the last match of the day. But after the losers semis of group play, then they went into the losers bracket final. So on the right side, we had Minnesota and Paris. And I correctly got this one. Also, Minnesota ended up winning that 3-1. And again, this is what Minnesota does. I wasn't sure with this matchup, right? This is one of the one where I really had to think about. Paris had been playing so well in scrims against Chicago that I wasn't sure what was going to happen here. But what I ended up doing is I just looked at the first few tournaments that Minnesota was in. They're not phased. They're not too afraid of the main stage. They're one of the only teams that have beaten Atlanta in a big-time event. So that's why I went with Minnesota, and they ended up winning. So that kicked Paris out of the tournament. We took Rocker, and now Rocker. So the winner of Group A, which was Dallas, will play the winner from the losers bracket, that's weird to say, of Group B. So Dallas is going to end up playing Minnesota in the semis tomorrow or today as you're watching this. And then if we're talking about the losers bracket final, so losers bracket final of Group A, the last match of the day, that was Florida versus Toronto. And even if I would have had Florida beating LAG, I wouldn't have picked them here either. After they lost on day one to Toronto, again, I just didn't see it. I didn't see the aggression. I didn't see them clutching up in moments where they needed to. But they did it again. So for me, this was a really impressive losers bracket run here, at least in Group A. So let's go ahead and let's put Florida where they belong. Whoops. Stop it. Little technical error here. There we go. So we'll put Florida down here where I had LAG. We'll move them back. I don't know. What I saw from LAG in that matchup against Dallas where they played really well on that very first day, I just thought that they would go further, and they didn't. So that leaves us with a matchup of the very first matchup on Championship Sunday is going to be the bottom of our bracket. It's going to be Chicago versus Florida. And again, this is a tough one. And the reason why it's tough is because Florida just showed that they could beat LAG 3-1. They could beat Toronto 3-1. And even though they lost to Toronto on day one, I mean, they've kind of found their groove again. And they've shown with the finals, so against Chicago in the semifinals at Atlanta, that they can perform in these scenarios, right? The moment isn't too big for them. But with that being said, Chicago has also looked really good. And because of that alone, Envoy's play in that search and destroy when he hit the flank and he ended up closing out that series against Paris. I mean, the man can do it all. And that's just one of the reasons, right? Even Formal hasn't had the best tournament so far yet. But I don't know. It's just the way that I'm feeling at the moment. So I have them winning that. I do think it'll be close. It's not going to be a 3-0. It'll probably be a 3-1. If I had to guess, I would say that would be a 3-1. But I do think that their wins are going to be close. I don't think you're going to be seeing hard point victories that are 250 to 170, right? I think it's going to be in the 250 to 220 range. But in this moment, with all the vets that Chicago have, I just think that they're more primed to end up winning another match like this. So I'm going to put Chicago through. And the other semifinal, so the second semifinal of the day, by the way, these take place. Chicago versus Florida is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which would be 3 p.m. Central Time, which would be 1 p.m. Pacific Time. And then if you're in the UK, what are you? You're 5 hours ahead of us, so that would be 9 p.m. UK time. But the very first one, so 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will be Chicago versus Florida. And then after that, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will be Dallas versus Rocker. And this one is tough. Oh, man. So I've thought about this quite a few times. And every time I think about power rankings, I think about those four teams, right? I think about Atlanta, think about Chicago, think about Dallas, think about Minnesota. To me, those are the four teams that have really risen above or rose above the rest of the league. I think there are teams that are close. I think London is close. I think Paris is close. I think some of these other teams are close, but I'm just not sure anybody's in their league. So the league of those top four teams. So that makes anytime any of these four teams match up, it makes it really difficult to call. So Dallas, who now I wish that this was an actual homestead, because if it was, then they would have a little bit of the energy to feed off of. They would be having the home court advantage, right? Even though it's not a court, but still they would be in their own beds. They would be driving to the arena, whereas Minnesota would be waking up in a hotel room and probably not getting the best sleep and all that stuff. So that definitely comes into play when it's an in-person event, when it's a LAN event. So with this is, I don't know. I feel like these two teams, if they played 100 times, one team would win 53 times and the other team would win 47, right? I really do feel like they're that close. So anybody that is 1,000% positive that one team is going to beat the other here is, I don't know how you could come to that conclusion. But with that being said, I think Dallas is playing really well. I think Minnesota is playing great also, right? I mean, Minnesota is Minnesota. They always clutch up. None of the moments are ever too big. but I just feel like Dallas is playing really well this tournament and coming off the win at CDL LA. I just feel confident with them, and I just have this feeling that they're going to clutch up and they're going to get it done. So because of that, I'm going to, again, have another matchup here of Chicago versus Dallas. And this is going to be the finals that we're looking for. Oh, boy. So where do we go here? Dallas versus Chicago. Now, this is one that has a lot behind it, right? Not even talking about the storylines and the players and the ex-teammates and the drama that kind of happened before the league started with the intro videos and Crim 6 and Scump mocking Crim 6 and all that stuff. So even if you're not talking about that, if you're just talking about what's happened so far in the actual league, these teams have matched up 3 times already, and Chicago has won all of them. The first couple were sweeps, so they were 3-0s. So if it was in person, again, this might be a little bit of a different topic. But even so, before I actually predict this, I said, so in my podcast that I was doing with Kingdom Soldier at the very beginning, I said that the power rankings right now, I had Atlanta and I had Chicago at the top, and Dallas was a little bit lower, but I specifically stated, I threw a little asterisk in there, and I said, if I was to break this down 4 or 5 months from now, it would not look the same. And the only reason why I had Dallas lower at the beginning of the year was because Illy hadn't been in this situation, Shotzi hadn't been in the situation, and that proved itself to play out that way, right? They didn't play well to start the year, and the fact that they can now play in the comfort of their own home or their training facility or wherever they're at, that just makes Illy and Shotzi be a little bit more comfortable, and they performed well at CDL LA. I don't want to take that away from them. I do think that they turned a corner, but let's not understate playing in the comfort of, you know, with their own rig and their own monitors and where they always play and stuff like that. So this, oh man, this is tough. One thing that I will say is that all of these players are top notch, right? It's not like you could look at one of these teams and be like, well, yeah, Chicago has a clear disadvantage because so-and-so is not playing great at the moment. What I will say is I think one thing that will play into this is the fact that Formal and Arcides have recently switched roles. And we saw the very first map of the day against Paris. Formal did not look very good. I don't remember the stat line, but it was like 19 and 30 something. I mean, he was almost double negative. He just didn't look very well. He said he was still waking up because they did play early in the morning, at least in terms of gamer time, and he's on the West Coast and whatnot. But I think Dallas playing together so far this year, they've played the same roles. They know exactly what they're doing. They're not switching anything up. I think that could play into this a little bit. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, if you agree with this or not. But because of that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that Dallas is going to end up being our winner of CDL Dallas. I think that this will be close. I think it will probably go a game 5. It'll probably be 3-2 Dallas. But I don't necessarily think that map 5 will be very close. I could see them winning that search and destroy somewhere in the 6-3 range or something like that. I don't know. It's just how I'm feeling at the moment. So far through 2 days of predictions, I've only had 1 match wrong. So I'm happy with that. We'll see what ends up happening on Sunday. If you guys have any comments whatsoever, I've loved reading your comments in my previous 2 videos. So if you have anything to say, put it down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Who's going to win what? Who's going to end up making it through the semifinals? What's going to be the matchup at the end? What's going to be the deciding factor in that matchup at the end? Anything you guys have, put it down in the comments below. I look forward to reading your reaction and seeing who's right as we watch this play out on Championship Sunday. So with that, guys, thank you so much. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I put out brand new videos every single day breaking down competitive scrims, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a like before you head on your way, and please enjoy the matchups on Championship Sunday. I will be with you on Monday to recap it all. So with that, I will catch you in tomorrow's video.